And we are back. We have got Sal Ulloa with Premier Aquatics right after Ryan Larson, who I love talking to every time I see him here. But Sal is instrumental at Premier Aquatics. I got to hear it from Dan and Ryan themselves how important you are for that organization. So I'm going to let him do the talking, ask him some questions, but it's great to have you. Thanks for joining, of course. So, first, really what we like to learn is how you got started in this.
Premier or just in general in the aquatics industry?
Let's start at the aquatics industry.
Yeah, so
how you fit into Premier.
I kind of your classic path, summer lifeguard, summer swim instructor, was a swimmer, water polo player. So it was just like the summer job to have. And then through college, I worked at a swim school, and then I ended up falling in love with it, and then worked at a swim school for a while, and then I found Premier Aquatics and Premier Swim Academy specifically where I work, and then I've been working there for 5 years. So kind of a 12-year process, but turned something that I loved from when I was a kid, and then ended up being a whole career, which was great.
That's awesome. And what was your first role with Premier?
So I was the training and curriculum director when I first came in. So I was on the training side. My job, it was really funny. You mentioned Dan and Ryan. They built this really good curriculum of how we teach learn to swim and basic stroke technique. But when I came in, it was just in their heads. So it was, hey, how do we take this great curriculum that we have and make it standard and scalable? So we built a whole system around it of how do we scale. We had, just 3 locations at the time about 5 years ago. And then now we're closing in on, 3, 4 year-round locations and about 12 seasonal locations for summer lessons. So we had to do that to be able to train at scale. So we're at a point where we're training about 150 swim instructors leading up to summer every year. A lot of them return, some are new. So we had to come up with a repeatable system. So that was my job for the last 3, 4 years.
Yeah. So they had this in their mind.
Yeah.
And were they training them just with what was in their head?
They had like a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay.
That was like the only content that they had.
Sure.
And it was just their experience of them just figuring out over the years. I think Ryan might have talked a little bit about how they created it. Just their experience, trial and error of how do we teach these kids how to, life-saving skills, and obviously the stroke school stuff. So I created, online courses and a training system and a repeatable, with benchmarks and learning objectives and all of that, so that it doesn't matter who does it, they're still getting the same content, the same delivery.
Is this video style? Is it quiz? Is it like assessments? Like what?
It's all of the above.
Okay.
So it's, obviously, so it's online course first. So it's asynchronous. You do your online learning first, videos, quizzes, knowledge checks, a certification test at the end. And then you come in and then you do your in-person training where you actually get to
Do the stuff,
skills,
practice it,
right? With an experienced trainer that's guiding you, coaching you. And then at the end of that, your test is go teach a swim lesson on your own. And then the trainer signs off on that certificate that you're now certified with us to teach. It's about a 2.5 to 3 week process.
And then when you get these instructors through the program, so is it lifeguards too, instructors, all the above kind of thing?
Yeah. So like different experiences of backgrounds.
Okay.
What I focus on is specifically swim instructor training.
Okay.
And then we have used that same approach to train our customer service representatives and our managers and our deck supervisors. So that system that we built, we use it for all of our positions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the swim instructor, I've got a 4-year-old who's in swim school.
Yeah.
And the instructor piece is so instrumental. She has had the same instructor for 3 years. She loves Mr. Caleb. She wants to go see him all the time. So when you have this approach and you have all of these instructors coming through, obviously retention is important.
Sure.
So how do you guys try to find the right people? Obviously a cultural fit, and hope that they stay around for as long as they can, right?
Yeah. Hiring is what I like to say is hiring is the most important part of training, right? We hire for core value and culture fit, and then we'll train the skills later. Like it's the classic, hire the character, train the skills. We know, and if someone slips through the cracks through hiring, and we have a pretty good system for that, we know pretty soon during the training if it's going to work out or not. Like someone can be very good in an interview, and then you hand him a 3-year-old in the water, and it's like deer in the headlights look, where you're like, oh, you are not comfortable. You've never interacted with a child before.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot of that. And then what we found is that we have pretty good retention, and it kind of self-regulates because you have people who have been with us for 3, 4 years, and they'll tell us like, hey, this person might not be working out. or we just see it through their engagement, right? Their attendance begins to drop, and we do some coaching. But if we really want people who love it, right? To your point, like consistency is most important in swim lessons. I think you ask anyone here, they'll tell you my curriculum's the best. But I think the most important thing is, are they swimming every week? Are they swimming with the swim instructor every week? And are they building? Is there progress, right? Even if it's just a little bit, 1% every week, consistency is the most important when it comes to learning to swim.
And then you mentioned a very important piece, which I don't hear often here, but you have culturally, you have to find the right person.
Yeah.
Is that the very first step before the courses? Like
So
when you
yeah,
bring someone on, do they take something?
so the interview process is pretty extensive. So we actually did an activity, and I'll be doing a light version of it today, in which we looked at our star employees, who are our rock stars, and we kind of reversed engineer, kind of like how you would build an ideal customer profile. So we built an ideal employee profile, and we said, what makes people that have a lot of success with us here? What makes them tick? And not just in general, but like what makes them be a rock star here with us, right? So we looked at values, we looked at traits, we looked at what do they look like? Do they smile when they walk in? Do they say hi to all the customers? And then we reverse engineer interview questions for that. Yeah. And and then we have an extensive interview process. So phone screen, in water interview, group interview. We want to see kind of all facets of how you interact with peers, a manager, with a customer, with a kid in the water.
No doubt. So learn to swim is obviously the most important
Yeah.
piece in terms of swimming for kids in general. We always like to talk about, how do you bridge the gap? What's the next step after learn to swim?
Yeah.
Because today it might be like, yeah, they're ready for swim team, but it's a scary step.
Sure.
So tell us about how you guys tackle that when the parent comes to you and they're like, okay, they're through the learn to swim part. What's next? Do you
Yeah,
keep them
so
there? Do you push them off?
it's a phenomenal question we get every day,
Okay.
right? So it's we think swimming's a phenomenal sport. You should continue to be here. Our focus is on technique. We are not going to make you fast. We are not going to make you swim long distance, but we will make you swim pretty. And
I love that.
it'll
I
be
love that.
competition ready.
Okay.
So by the time you finish our level 6, which is our final level in our curriculum, our promise is, if you go to a swim meet, you won't get disqualified.
That's huge.
Right. And I want to say a promise. We do our best, right? Obviously, the things happen.
Of course.
So what we tell people is like, look, we don't have swim teams at our swim schools. We do at some of our seasonal programs. But speaking for Premier Swim Academy specifically, we say, look, you can go through our level 5 and 6 with us, which is our advanced stroke technique part of our curriculum. And we say, when you get to level 5, we encourage you to find a swim team. Go find a swim team. We will recommend swim teams to you. You can work on your speed and endurance, and you can continue to work on technique with us here.
Oh, I love it.
So we have a lot of swimmers that technically they're done with our curriculum. They're just fine tuning and perfecting, and they do swim lesson with us for 30 minutes, and then they go and do a 2-hour practice after. So that's what we tell them. Like, look, you can swim with us forever, really, if you want to continue, and we will just work on perfecting your technique. That's what we focus on.
That's awesome. So when you guys are working on their technique, obviously there's, swim team, swim meet, those are scary words for these types of parents. So when you are educating them through the process, the kids and the parents, you guys are going to do meets, I hear, maybe a couple of meets. So,
Yeah.
so talk to us about that. Like, you're getting their technique dialed, and then they're like, oh, are we going to race, or are we going to play, or whatever it is? What do you guys do there?
So the first we say is like, look, we're going to teach you the 4 basic strokes, right? And sometimes that's a 20-minute conversation in of itself. Someone who's not into the swimming world like we are may not know. They may just know freestyle or front crawl or backstroke, and they're like, well, there's actually breaststroke and butterfly, and they say like, hey, why aren't we doing breaststroke and butterfly in level 3? We're like, well, there's a lot to it, right? We have to get into we try not to get too technical and get into long axis versus short axis. So we say, look, we'll teach you basic techniques: swim freestyle across the pool, swim backstroke across the pool. And if you're really interested and you want to pursue it as a sport for your kid, or the kid's really into it, then we encourage you to continue with us and then do the more advanced strokes. As far as competition, we started introducing some competition skills, so flip turns, flag counts, things like that, into our higher levels, where we can start introducing slowly So it's not as scary when they get to a swim meet, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And then you guys will do in-house play competition.
Yeah, so we're gonna do what we are calling our swim showcases. So it's a little bit less
Right.
pressure.
Because swim meets are scary words.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a little bit less pressure. You're just gonna you're gonna do a race across the pool with the skills that you're working on in class. Like you're already doing this. You're just gonna do it. There'll be a ribbon for you at the end. If it's a little bit of a younger student, they're just learning freestyle and they get scared, there'll be an instructor in the water there with you to help you out. So it's just like a soft introduction to the competitive side of swimming.
That's cool. Sal, we'll start to wrap this up, but I do want to hear you are speaking today, which will be cool. Tell us about what you will be speaking on. I think we probably touched on a little bit of it.
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit. So it's like I said, the past 4 years have been really focused on the employee development side of the swim school business that we run. So we're going to talk about the system and the architecture that we put together for the whole life cycle and work span of an employee with us. So from hiring and onboarding to initial training, ongoing coaching and performance evaluations, and how it all feeds into itself. And you should be collecting data throughout that whole process to find where there's gaps in that system. So
Sure.
I used the example earlier. If all of your instructors are struggling to teach back floats, that's not their fault. You're not very good at training them to teach back floats, right?
Yeah.
So if the data is telling you we were not very good at back floats, you can go back and then refine your initial training system.
That's
So it should be a
awesome.
self-sustaining feedback loop.
And so, do you guys ever have like a train the trainer approach?
Yeah.
Is that the approach?
That is, yeah. So
okay.
we have our some managers and some dedicated trainers that go through an extensive training process, and they go through another training system for them to be able to train and certify our swim instructors.
Okay.
So we take sort of like Red Cross or Starguard Elite who train their lifeguard trainers.
Yeah.
We kind of use that approach into our swim
So
instructors.
it's just one extra layer, pretty
Exactly.
much. Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
I know you got a talk coming up. Good luck with
Appreciate
that,
it.
and we'll be excited to hear it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.